Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
From a home in the wealthy suburbs of Orlando, Florida, 45-year-old Danielle Redlick called 911 with an emergency on January 12, 2019.
What's going on at 1231 Temple Drive?
I believe my husband is deceased.
Okay. And why do you believe he's deceased?
Because he's stiff and he's been wounded. He might have had a heart attack. I don't know.
Her husband was stiff and cold, Danielle said. But when asked if she had just found him like that, Danielle had a rather surprising answer.
Okay. Did you just find him?
No, actually. It happened last night.
It happened last night?
Correct.
About 11 hours had passed since she said her husband may have suffered a heart attack. But the dispatcher soon learned there was even more to the story.
So did you find him this morning? Because I know you said that you believed it happened last night. Did you see him last night? Was he okay or was...
He was not okay last night. We had altercation and he stabbed himself and I ran into the bathroom and then when I came out I trying to help him and I saw he was just lying in blood. And then
you say he stabbed
help him
himself?
And I correct, yes.
All right.
And then I tried to help him and I woke up with sitting up next to him.
Uh-huh.
And I've been trying to figure out what to do.
Michael Redlick had been stabbed in the shoulder, an injury that could take anywhere from minutes up to 2 hours to bleed out, according to court records.
I know you first said that you thought he had a heart attack. So do you think it was a heart attack or do you think it was due to the stabbing that he passed away?
Probably the stabbing triggered it, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shoulder wound.
You say it's a shoulder wound?
Right.
Danielle described an altercation she had the night before with her husband, who was more than 20 years her senior. Michael had attacked her in the moments leading up to the stabbing, she said, and then had a heart attack.
It started around 10:30. He was actually choking me and trying to suffocate me first. I actually went for the knife. And he was screaming about, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Stab me. And he grabbed it. Mm-hmm. And that's when he did it. He made a motion, and I ran out of the room. Because I'm on probation, and I was scared to death.
So you say around 10:30 p.m.?
I think.
And when did you go back to check on him, or did you stay there?
No, I stayed in the bathroom for a while, and he came to the bathroom door, and it was closed, and he was screaming stuff about how he was going to send me to jail and all this stuff. And then I was just trying to stay away from him. And then I heard some moaning and stuff, and I was scared. I finally went to check on him. Mm-hmm. And I could see that he was out of it. And I was slipping on his blood, and it was heavily, heavily bloody. So I tried to... He was out of it. I think he was already... I was trying to give him mouth to mouth.
But why did Danielle wait until the morning to get help? She freely answered that question from the dispatcher.
Is there a reason why you didn't call last night?
Yeah, I'm on probation, and I was really afraid, and I didn't think anybody would believe me. And I was just trying to get him to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was exhausted after I just fell asleep sitting up next to him.
Mm-hmm.
tried to hurt myself this morning. So it doesn't look good for me. The emergency people are here.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let you go, okay? Go ahead and speak with them.
Pardon?
Go ahead and speak with them.
You're going to speak with them?
Yes.
Okay.
By then, officers from the Winter Park Police Department arrived at the Redlicks' home to a gruesome scene. 15 feet away from the front door was the dead body of 65-year-old Michael Redlick. An officer wrote in his police report, "The decedent is almost completely covered in blood." Michael lay on his back with his arms stretched out, so his body made the letter T. He wore only blue jeans, which were soaked in blood, and black socks. No shirt. His lips were pale. His chest wasn't moving. He had no pulse. He was soon pronounced dead. Michael had a stab wound on his left shoulder that was about 3 inches long, an injury difficult to see because of all of the blood, but it wasn't hard to find what killed him. About 8 feet away from where his body lay was a knife with a bloody 12-inch serrated blade. The knife was on the floor in the doorway to the kitchen. And there was blood everywhere, throughout the foyer, and then a bloody trail continued into the living room, leading into the couple's primary bedroom, where there were bloody footprints too. Blood was in the kitchen, with some on the floor like something had been dragged. There was blood in the shower and elsewhere in the bathroom, too. Investigators could see obvious signs of a cleanup. They smelled the strong, unmistakable odor of bleach. The floor looked like it had been mopped, an effort made in vain to clean up the copious amounts of blood in the primary bedroom and bathroom. Bloody towels and Michael's bloody shirt were found in a pile. On his shirt, investigators could see the tear from where he had been stabbed once in the shoulder. Danielle, who later admitted she had tried to clean up the blood, had done a poor job disguising the fact that something violent had happened there. Blood stained Danielle's bare feet and her hands. The first officers arriving on the scene noted that she looked disheveled and wore a black sweater that looked like it had vomit on it. She was crying. Her wrists were bandaged. She had tried to slit them. Officers told her to wait outside. She was taken to the hospital for treatment. Investigators saw broken eggshells on the driveway and inside and outside of Michael's car. It was a surreal scene. Inside the beautiful Mediterranean-style home was an unbelievable amount of blood. Behind the facade was a family with a bizarre and troubled history. But if you think this is going to be a straightforward case, think again. There would be multiple surprises coming out of the courtroom in Orlando, Florida. In today's episode, we're going to take a deep look into Danielle and Michael's relationship, as told to police as they investigated Michael's death. Then in part 2, we'll cover the trial. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 212. After police officers found Michael Redlick's body and a disheveled, bloody Danielle Redlick, Danielle was taken to the hospital. From there, Winter Park Police Detective Pamela War interviewed her. It was January 12th, hours after first responders found Michael's body. Danielle, who wanted an attorney, spoke briefly about what had transpired. She said Michael had found out she was texting another man. He was belligerent and distraught over the discovery. Their marriage was already on the rocks. Danielle said Michael had cheated on her the year before. It was a big, long, drawn-out thing, she said. Their relationship was somewhat of a revolving door. Sometimes Michael moved out. Then he moved back in. They stayed together, but the couple wasn't happy. Danielle said she felt a divorce was inevitable. She doubted their nearly 15-year marriage could survive. That had been the background leading up to their latest fight. the one that ended up with Michael dead in the foyer. The doctors were treating Danielle's injuries and evaluating her mental health because she had tried to harm herself. In Florida, a state law called the Baker Act allows people to receive emergency medical services if they're at risk of hurting themselves or others. They can be held for up to 72 hours against their will. Detective War explained that it wasn't the police who were detaining Danielle at the hospital. Here's an excerpt of that conversation.
Okay, so I understand. You say I'm not being held, but the doctors are evaluating my...
You're not being held by the police department.
By the hospital?
Correct.
Okay.
So you met with a psychiatrist, I guess they went over. Okay, so that is up to them.
Otherwise, if they conclude that I can go either in some point here, I can't go home, correct? Or
correct.
How long is that for?
I'm not sure how long that is.
Okay. You're not sure because of the investigation?
Correct.
Okay.
If you're not going to be held under a Baker Act, we would like you to come back with us to the police department just to kind of talk to us if you're comfortable. But from what I understand, I think they are going to hold you for a couple of days. They're just worried about your well-being.
Danielle wasn't happy about having to stay in the hospital. She was upset about how their children would find out about their father's death. Helping my children would be the best for all of our well-being, she said, sighing deeply. Their two children, ages 11 and 15, had both been staying at friends' houses on the night Michael died, meaning Danielle had been waiting for hours in the house alone with her dead husband. Questions swirled in the community right after Michael Redlick's body was found in January 2019. The local media covered the story, but details were sparse. Police said Michael's death had been due to suspicious circumstances, but authorities didn't immediately release his cause of death. Danielle sounded frustrated when she spoke to a Winter Park detective on the phone on January 13th, one day after Michael's body was found. She was calling from a behavioral center where she was getting treatments.
I happened to, it was late last night when I was transferred over to the unit, and I saw on the news a brief story saying a suspicious death had occurred. And so I don't know what that, I know what that means, but at the same time, what are you telling people? And how do we move forward on this? Because I'd like to.
That's really up to you. You requested legal representation, so I can't really question you. Now, if you...
but I reported to the dispatcher when I called what happened, so I just wondered if you guys were just looking into it from there. I'm fine. I guess I'm just looking at what to do here, because I know things need to be get done, and I certainly don't want people thinking, the wrong things or whatever. Not that.
Right. So what you saw on the news is the only thing that we've released to the media. Nothing else is going to be released because, we still have to investigate everything. And, you did request legal representation, so I can't question you further. That would have to be on your own willingness to go forward with that.
So I guess I feel at a loss here without my phone and being able to contact a lawyer or have access to, how I might handle this.
Less than 2 weeks after Michael's death, Danielle was arrested, but not for murder. She was put into jail for violating her probation. Remember, Danielle had told the 911 dispatcher she didn't report Michael's death right away because she was on probation. More on that later. Meanwhile, investigators continued to build a murder case against her. They obtained a search warrant for her DNA so they could analyze what was her genetic material and what was her husband's. They also were going to search her home. Danielle was angry when a detective read her the warrant.
It is further directed that any evidence or property seized under this warrant shall be brought before a court having proper jurisdiction to be disposed of.
I did not murder my husband. Please, I don't understand this jargon.
According to law, upon request, ordered and sealed this 16th day of January 2019, signed by Judge Gail A. Adams.
To put a mother and 4 kids in jail after her husband died, it's fabulous. It's really great karma for you guys. I mean, I know you're doing your job, but at the same time, I have had no chance for defense or anything.
I'm not asking you any questions, Ms. Redlick. I'm just here to execute the search warrants.
Investigators continued probing the contents of the Redlicks' phones and computers and interviewing neighbors, friends, and colleagues. What would they find? With a law degree and a master's degree in sports management, Michael Redlick was a successful executive in the sports world. He worked for major teams from the Cleveland Cavaliers, Cleveland Browns, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, he loved sports, but he also loved his 2 children. He was, by all accounts, a devoted dad. Because of his kids, Michael was said to have turned his back on the glamorous and exciting sports world, where all the big money was, and took a pay cut to come work on the faculty at the University of Central Florida's Sports Business Management program. Michael's boss penned a tribute to him for the university. Michael, quote, felt that his moving around was disruptive to his family life, and particularly for his children. I talked to Mike every day we were in the office together, and without exaggeration, most of the conversation was about his kids. Michael may have been ready for a change, to go back into the sports industry, however. One of Michael's friends said he was interviewing for an executive job at the New York Knicks, which sounded like a dream job. The friend wasn't sure what stage of the process he was in, but Michael was clearly nervous about telling Danielle. Michael and Danielle had been married for around 15 years, but they knew each other long before their relationship became romantic. Danielle acknowledged their, quote, odd circumstances of how we came together. Michael had been briefly married to Danielle's mother before Danielle and Michael got together. That means Michael at one point had been Danielle's stepfather. Michael, who was 21 years older than Danielle, had been her stepfather when she was in her early 20s. Their unorthodox family history surprised and even appalled some of their friends and family, and made them feel uncomfortable, at least initially when they found out about them. In her own words, Danielle explained how Michael evolved from her stepfather to her friend, to her lover, and then finally her husband.
My mother and my stepfather had split up after 20 years, and my mom met Michael, and they started dating. And she discovered shortly after they were dating that she had an aggressive stage 4 breast cancer. And she only had so long to live. And so they got married in Vegas. And within 3 to 6 months after that, she passed away.
When Danielle's mother died, Danielle moved in with Michael to help take care of her younger siblings, while Michael worked for the Cavaliers.
We were just kind of handling the domestic duties with the kids, sort of. And I was working, and he was encouraging me professionally and sort of became friendly, was very supportive. And, there was time of loss for both of us, and we sort of bonded. And eventually it turned into a romantic relationship. I was going to school and working part-time at one point, or at that time, and he started coming up to the place that I worked. I was a bartender at night, so he started coming up to all the shifts that I was working and just visiting with me. And after that, he started inviting me to do more things together, and we and I grew to enjoy it. And he was kind of worldly and smart, so these are new and exciting things for me. So at some point it turned into a romantic relationship.
She said at one point, Michael got a job opportunity with the Memphis Grizzlies. He asked her to move with him, but she said no.
At some point, did that change? Did you make it to Memphis?
Yeah, so at that point, he was buying me plane tickets just about every weekend. And so he was flying me to Memphis and show me around. And so I think after a year of that, one time he picked me up at the airport and he said he had a surprise, and he took me to a place called Mud Island, where it's a beautiful neighborhood on the Mississippi River in Memphis. And he pulled up to a home and he went inside and he said, "I bought this for us." And it was a beautiful house. It had a pool and it was on the river. And so from there, I went ahead and made the decision to go ahead and move to Memphis.
So you're there on a visit and he told you that he'd already bought a home for you?
Yes.
Or for you together?
Right.
Okay. At this point, how was the relationship?
It was good. I mean, like I said, odd circumstances how we came together, but it was good. We enjoyed our time together.
But Danielle and Michael's relationship shook up Danielle's siblings. She admitted her younger sister, who had been living with them, took it hard. People were shocked, Danielle said. Other than that, they didn't have much to say about it. Here's what one of Michael's friends thought about it. The friend spoke to investigators about Michael's unorthodox way of meeting Danielle. Note, he calls him Red.
Redlick was a playwright, a cabbie, a lawyer, went back to grad school at 42, so he was kind of a free spirit. He was dating a trapeze artist in grad school in 96. I mean, he was just kind of an out there guy. Mm-hmm. So we went to a friend of ours' wedding, and he showed up with a very nice lady. I'd never met her. And if I'm not mistaken, that's Danielle's mom. And he told me, he's like, "Look, I married her so that she had coverage for her, I think she had cancer, but don't quote me on that. She had some kind of disease that she actually succumbed to." And all of us were like, "Oh, it's such a Red move." We called him Red. We were like, "Oh, such a Red move to marry her. That's something he would totally do," and yada, yada, yada. Well, throughout the process of her passing away and then going to the family stuff and the functions, he started hanging out with Danielle, and then they started, I've asked him several times if he was, because for me, I was like pissed off about it, because I said, if you were dating her or hanging out with her while your wife's still alive, that's just completely wrong. And he said, "No, I swear to God, it happened naturally after the fact, and we had gone through this whole journey of being sad and kind of consoling each other. So we started hanging out. I don't remember the time frame until after. He said, "I swear to you, it was after she passed away."
The friend wondered if Danielle and Michael's origin story, the way they met, contributed to their rocky relationship.
I think they went to counseling together, if I'm not mistaken, and I would always bring it up to him that, "Are you guys addressing the issue that was her mom?" And he's like, "No, we don't talk about that," because they had kind of explained that away and justified it in their own heads. And I'm like, I was always shocked to him. I'm like, why are you wondering what the root of the issue is? Mm-hmm. If she has anger issues, there might be something there with that. And he's like, "No, it's not that, I promise." So I always found that frustrating, because he just wouldn't accept that maybe that was a root of some of these issues of them constantly fighting.
What were Michael and Danielle like? And what was the state of their marriage? Winter Park Police interviewed more than 30 people who provided a looking glass into the couple's life. These audio recordings are public and were released by the state attorney's office. But to protect their identities, I'm only using first names. These interviews turned up plenty of red flags that this wasn't a harmonious marriage. Nearly everyone police interviewed had a story to tell about Danielle, and one person had dark allegations to raise against Michael. Many people in the Redlick social network described Danielle as being physical with Michael, and her screaming profanities at a Little League game, for example, when another kid made a bad throw to her son. Danielle's son wasn't invited back to the team after that, one person said. For years, Michael's inner circle was apparently concerned that Danielle was going to hurt him. Michael's friend Kevin knew Michael from the sports industry. On the very day of his funeral, Kevin wanted to tell police what was on his mind, in case it helped with their investigation. There was something Michael had said to him before that didn't mean anything to him then, but in hindsight, he wondered. He said he had asked Michael once how his wife was, and Michael responded, "As long as I can lock the knives up, I'm okay." He described Michael as a loving husband who cared a lot about his kids. As for Danielle,
my wife and I have met her maybe 3 or 4 occasions.
Okay.
Dating back 20 years, and there was always something off. There was always something. It was just a different relationship.
Okay.
The only thing I just knew all along she was just very different, and I knew that he had to hide, certain things because she always had a temper a little bit.
Okay.
With certain things.
He said he had never seen or heard about any kind of physical violence between the two. Rob, another one of Michael's friends, described similar red flags to police. He said Michael would tell him, "Danielle is going to take all my money and divorce me," or "She hasn't killed me yet." He said it was almost kind of tongue-in-cheek, but he knew there was a very dark side to Danielle that was, quote, very, very, very mean to Mike. He said the entire time he knew them, it was always uncomfortable to be around them. He described Danielle as conniving, controlling, mean, and fake. Several people described Michael as laid back. He was easygoing, even keel, and a teddy bear. Danielle, on the other hand, was angry and volatile, they said. She was sometimes possessive and jealous over Michael. David didn't personally witness it, but he described a party they went to for either Halloween or New Year's Eve, where he said Danielle approached another woman and asked her what she thought of Michael. "Do you think my husband is hot?" she asked. He said he forgot how the woman answered, but at the end of the party, Danielle was like, "Don't ever look at my husband again. I know you're attracted to him." Alcohol seemed to play a factor in Michael and Danielle's marriage. Their young son said both of his parents were alcoholics. Some of the couple's friends said Michael had stopped drinking, and it was just Danielle who had issues. Many neighbors and family friends expressed their worries about how the couple's children were living in an environment like that, where tensions were high, fights were loud, and alcohol was an ever-present factor. Michael himself was concerned. He confided his own concerns about Danielle's drinking to his UCF supervisor, Richard. Richard spoke to Winter Park detectives, too. According to what Richard told police, Michael had told him he stopped drinking because of Danielle's serious drinking problem. He said he was concerned for the kids and for her safety. He said she had actually been arrested at one point due to alcohol. Richard said Michael really wanted to make the marriage work. Richard told police he couldn't imagine his friend and colleague ever hurting himself. Remember, Danielle first told 911 that Michael had stabbed himself. It was inconceivable that Michael would die by suicide because he loved his children so much, Richard said. But deep down, Richard wished the cause of his friend's death was suicide.
This sounds insane and hard to even say and think, but I almost prefer that that's what happened as opposed to what the alternative might be for the kid's sake. But
what do you suspect happened? What's the first thing that came to mind when you heard about this?
Our fear was that some violent confrontation broke out between the two of them, and he ended up dying as a result.
He said Danielle is also a terrific person. The whole thing is just so tragic, he said. Neighbors of the Redlicks told police they had witnessed some very vocal arguments in front of the house. They said they were always somewhat concerned about the kids. They noticed that Michael would move out, then move back in from time to time. As for physical fights, they said they saw Danielle as the aggressor. When you're walking the dog and you see people screaming at each other and slapping each other, and she's the one that normally did the physical part, they said. They described one time Danielle was screaming her lungs out at Michael and came over crying. There were alleged infidelity issues, definitely on his part, they said. Because they always witnessed the more physical part on her side, they didn't think it was as dangerous as if they had seen him hitting her. Mark was another close friend of Michael's that knew him through the sports industry. He felt like he needed to call the police to advocate for his friend in death. He said Michael had expressed concerns to him about Danielle's drinking and mental stability. Michael shared with him over the years that Danielle was not only verbally and mentally abusive, but physically abusive as well. One conversation that stuck with him over the years was when he asked Michael how he was, and Michael responded, "How am I? I'm trying to figure out if my wife is really sort of mentally certifiably insane or just a bit." A colleague of Michael's at UCF recalled to detectives that one time he came into work with a black eye. And then, about a week before his death, she noticed dark bruises on his arms, like somebody had grabbed him. She said she thought about asking him about it, but she didn't. "I thought to myself, this is a 65-year-old man. I'm sure he knows how to handle himself." Anthony, another one of Michael's friends, remembered another incident around 10 years ago when Michael showed up to dinner with fresh claw marks on his face. When Anthony asked him about it, Michael told him Danielle had been throwing plates at him and hitting him, so he had to hit her back in order to defend himself. He took Michael to a hotel and tried calling Danielle, but she wouldn't answer. A couple days later, he said Michael downplayed the incident. Anthony told detectives that a romantic night with Danielle and Michael could instantly turn violent. He described it as drunk Danielle would snap and hit Michael out of nowhere, her anger exploding. He said their children would hear it. Michael told him that one time the couple's daughter pulled Danielle off of Michael. That was about a year and a half prior. Michael's other friend, Chris, told detectives that Danielle and Michael had separated a few times, and at one point, Michael was dating another woman. When Danielle found out and saw Michael's phone, she absolutely flipped out, Chris said. Another friend, David, said Michael had dated a woman who looked like a younger version of Danielle. One of Michael's strengths appeared to be making the abnormal seem normal. Eventually, he got back together with Danielle, even though their fights were still out of control. His friend Chris said Danielle was so volatile, it made him nervous to invite the couple to his wedding. Michael told him Danielle once threw a knife at him. He said he advised Michael to start filing police reports.
But I said, Mike, I'm worried she's going to harm you. So I had said, hey, watch yourself. Make sure you're protecting yourself in terms of, letting the police know what's going on.
But unbeknownst to Chris, plenty of police documentation already existed. On February 4th, 2018, Michael called 911. The couple had been drinking and got into a fight. Michael said the fight wasn't physical. Danielle had fallen asleep by the time Winter Park police arrived at the house. A couple weeks earlier, on January 26, 2018, after a night of drinking at a bar with two friends, according to this police report, Danielle was talking about her divorce and then accused her two friends of being part of a conspiracy with Michael. The driver of the car they were in pulled the car over after Danielle and another woman started fighting each other in the back seat. The driver feared if he didn't stop, he was going to crash. First responders arrived and Danielle had a meltdown. When a paramedic tried to treat a bloody Danielle, she pushed him and tried to punch him. She swore and yelled vulgar comments. A Seminole County Sheriff's deputy got involved and put both of his hands on Danielle to keep her seated, but she lunged at him. 2 deputies were needed. Danielle then tried to bite one of the deputies' hands. She was placed on a stretcher and was restrained. A paramedic had to place his hand on Danielle's head to keep her from spitting on him, according to the police report. She then yelled vulgar things and obscenities at the medical staff in the emergency room. Danielle was arrested that night. She took a plea deal and pleaded guilty to resisting an officer without violence and disorderly conduct. That incident is why Danielle was on probation in early 2019, why she told the 911 dispatcher that she was scared to report her husband's injuries because she didn't want to get into trouble. She was in the final days of her probation. But Winter Park Police also had more encounters with Danielle in 2016. In June 2016, a police officer patrol saw Danielle, quote, an intoxicated female in distress, in a Winter Park area known for its upscale restaurants and bars. She was taken to get mental health help. In October 2016, Danielle called the police after she said she and Michael, who were separated at that point, got into an argument at their son's baseball game, and she claimed he pushed her into a picnic table. The argument continued later that night. Danielle wanted to document the incident, but she reportedly got angry when an officer said she needed to give a sworn statement. She refused to speak and abruptly left the building. The history of the police intervening in Danielle and Michael's fights extended well before the couple's time living in Florida. Remember, Michael had been a sports business executive for teams across the country, including in Ohio. A 2001 Bay Village, Ohio police report showed police responding to a scene of another domestic violence dispute in the street. Danielle and Michael weren't married at the time, but were live-in boyfriend and girlfriend. According to the police report, Michael's face was covered with blood from fresh scratch marks which were all over his face. He appeared highly intoxicated. Danielle was crying and bleeding from the mouth as well as from cuts on her knuckles. She seemed very drunk as well. Danielle told the officer that Michael struck her while they were driving home on the interstate from an AC/DC concert. She said they had gotten into an argument about past issues and that Michael hit her, so she defended herself by fighting him. Danielle said Michael had hit her in the past and was violent when he was under the influence of alcohol. The police report stated, because both involved parties sustained obvious physical injuries, Danielle and Michael were arrested for domestic violence. The report also included an interesting revelation. Their arrest that night was how Danielle's other stepfather, Robert, the one who had known Danielle since she was a little girl, discovered Danielle and Michael were a romantic couple. Police notified Robert that Danielle and her live-in boyfriend Michael had been arrested. Robert was surprised and concerned. He hadn't been aware that Danielle and Michael were dating and told police, no, Michael is her other stepfather, not her boyfriend. Neither Danielle nor Michael would comment when asked about this claim, the police report said. While investigating Michael's death, Winter Park Police had plenty of proof the couple both seriously considered divorce. A handwritten note they found, written apparently by Michael, showed he was considering how much a divorce attorney might cost and what the formula was for child support. He was figuring out his options. Danielle had actually filed for divorce in Orange County, Florida on March 23, 2018, saying their marriage was irretrievably broken. She described herself as an unemployed communications/photographer/multimedia professional. She calculated she had over $9,000 in monthly expenses, including a $2,900 mortgage payment. According to court records, her petition was dismissed after a judge found that Michael had not been properly served with divorce papers. The divorce never went through. and less than a year later, in January 2019, Michael was dead. As you heard earlier, quite a few of Michael Redlick's friends were eager to speak with police and share the red flags they said they saw in Danielle Redlick's behavior. But one person contacted the police department with allegations about Michael's behavior. The woman told police Michael had sexually assaulted her when they were minors in Ohio. He was 17, she was barely a teenager. Michael allegedly told her, "If you tell anyone, I'll say you're lying." The whole thing was just terrifying and traumatizing, the woman said. She was terrified, she felt threatened, and she was so young, she didn't have the words to describe what had happened. The woman didn't tell anyone about the alleged sexual assault until years later, when she told a family member in 2013. The family member confronted Michael, and Michael's attorney responded in a threatening letter, the woman said. Michael denied any wrongdoing in the letter. Now that Michael was dead, the woman contacted a Winter Park police detective. "I thought I needed to report this to somebody," she said. The detective documented what the woman said and promised to submit it to the state attorney's office to determine whether her allegations were relevant to the state's case against Danielle Redlick. If you were a single man in Orlando looking for love in 2019, you might have stumbled on this profile in the dating app Meet Mindful. The interested woman described herself as a giver, outdoorsy, an intellectual, and empathetic. "I love being inspired and also being the inspiration if and when I can," her profile said. Her flaws were being too self-conscious, especially about her hair. Her interests were eating organically, doing yoga in the evenings, and meditating, sometimes in traffic. She also liked picnics and soaking in lavender baths. What she wanted to find was a date, a friend, or long-term love. Looking for down-to-earth, kind of deep, would-be interesting, zest-for-life type of guy with sense of humor to spend time with, and hopefully share same definition of love. Also, not going to lie, love the whole Romeo and Juliet fairy tale. But I keep it real. I think having a real, meaningful, and strong connection is what appeals to me. The profile was Danielle Redlick's. Investigators saw that Danielle had created her dating profile on December 5th, 2018, while she was still technically married. She had updated it and was an active user, regularly messaging others. What seemed particularly damning, however, Danielle had been on the app on January 12th and January 13th, 2019. The night her husband was stabbed, and the following day when police responded to her 911 call. A month after Michael's death, Danielle was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and tampering with evidence. She rejected a plea deal. Her future was in the hands of a 6-person jury. On next week's episode, I'm covering Danielle's murder trial. Prosecutors were convinced that she was a violent, cold-blooded killer. But would a jury think the same after hearing testimony from Danielle herself?
At the time you have the knife and you stab him with it, what are you trying to do? What is your goal here in your mind?
To get away from him.
Why? If you don't do that, what is your belief that will happen?
That he might smother me to death. Whatever he was going to do to me.
That's next week in part 2. And that's all for this episode. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads or hear additional Court Junkie bonus content, check out my Patreon options at courtjunkie.com/support. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.